All right, welcome to the Ohio State of Mind. I am back from my 2-week hiatus. Took a lovely vacation with my fiance to Disney World, if anybody cares. I am here with my two favorite guys, Austin Pfenninger. I pronounced that right then.
Yeah, that was right. Good job.
Thank you.
Very few pronounce it right on the first time.
Well, this is my second time.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah. And then my boy from Valpo, Nate Atkins, which I think you saw my tweet earlier.
So I did.
The news is spoiled. But we will bring it up. But the first thing I cover a couple insane Ohio State topics. The first one is they trademarked the. Okay.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yep.
Do you have any thought? I don't even know what to say about it. I guess it makes sense. Like there's a bunch of different. They didn't just trademark the word. They trademarked specific usages of it, like on shirts and like with the color scheme or shit like that. Austin, you shaking your head like you know what's up.
Yeah, I read a little bit, not like completely in depth. If you can do it, why not? It's good publicity, and
they've been trying for like 10 years.
Yeah, they're getting it. Well, I didn't know it was that long, but yeah, they're getting their name in the news, so why not? But yeah, as far as like the actual application of it, it's like a smaller use case. It's like basically on their official clothing, so like, hey, this is from this source. Basically, no one else can knock that off or put it on the T-shirt. But as far as like the actual word itself, like anyone else can use the word "the" or "the" on a shirt if it's not Ohio State related. But why not? It's what makes them interesting. If you guys don't have much else good going on recently, you got something else you can talk about.
It's a slow news day, bro. It's a slow news day. The next big piece of Ohio State news is obviously they pulled off one of the biggest recruiting weeks in recent memory. I really can't remember a week where they got this much star power. I think it maybe is overhyped because they're three guys from the same position. You know what I mean? There may have been an instance in the past where it was like they got a 5-star running back and a 5-star linebacker. Matter of fact, I think earlier this year they got that Mark Fletcher kid from Florida. He was a 5-star running back, and they got a 5-star safety. But they got 2 5-star wide receivers and a 4-star wide receiver today. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. They got Carnell Tate, kid from Chicago, transferred out to IMG Academy. Brandon Ennis, who's the number. So Carnell Tate's the number 3 receiver in the country. Brandon Ennis is the number 2 receiver in the country. I believe Brandon Ennis and Carnell Tate played on South Florida Express, the 7-on-7 team down in the South. 7-on-7 is just something that I can't even comprehend up here in the North. That's just not something we do. But those dudes talk to each other. And then Noah Rogers, who's a 4-star recruit, he also pledged to Ohio State as well. And based off the people that I know that are closer to recruiting than I am, he's going to receive a mighty large bump in recruiting rankings by the end of the season, because I guess he's built like a freight train with all the speed and all the dressings that you want. Do you guys have any knowledge of what's going on, those guys? Any thoughts about what Brian Hartline's doing in that room? Or
I was going to say I think Hartline's the best receivers coach in the country, both as far as developing, but I think he's the best recruiter at the position too. And a lot of times you're usually one or the other, but he has both of them. And I watched, I don't pay a whole lot of attention to recruiting stuff. I'll watch some guys here and there. I have seen Tate's film though, and looks impressive. So I think they're just, it's that position there. They just keep reloading every year, and it's, who's the next first, second round pick, behind the current guy. So they're just kind of stacking the cupboard there. But yeah, Nate, anything else on top of that?
No, I just know. I think Tate was a Notre Dame recruit that they were pretty high on. I think they didn't get him. So
it's a damn shame. But hey, Notre Dame still got the number 1 class, though. I didn't know that until I looked it up today.
Yeah, right now. Yeah, definitely do.
I kind of was thinking the NIL stuff, because we talked about it briefly on Twitter, was going to end up biting it in the ass. Because the dudes here are making a shit ton.
Yeah, I don't know if this is a topic you've already covered or not, with like Freeman and some like the recent about like Ohio State and not going to class, and I guess just being an alum too. Like, kind of what's your thoughts on him and what he's doing at Notre Dame?
So first of all, Austin, let me let you know. Let me give you a little insight to how this show works. 3 people listen to it, so even if we did cover it, we can certainly cover it again, because by the grace of God, it could be 3 different fucking people. Okay? So nothing is off limits here. No, the Marcus Freeman thing is weird, dude. I don't know why he keeps digging at Ohio State and the not going to classes thing. Now, do they go and sleep through class? Possibly. Well, are they skipping class? Hell no, dude. I know that for a fact. Because not only did I play at Ohio, not only did I go to Ohio State, but I tutored at Ohio State too. So I got a lot of those dudes, those athletes, attendance records, and even they were there. They were always there. Now, were they paying attention? Were they sitting in the front? That I can't answer. But you had to go to class. You had to go to class. You were far more likely to skip an online class or something that was due online than anything physical, because you're 90% of the time they're already up. They're just walking back from, wherever it was. They get free parking and all, they get free breakfast and all that shit. It's nothing for them to walk into class and doze off and pay attention. They got these dudes that like monitors that go sneak their head in every fucking class to see if they're there, and they ding you. You get penalized if you don't go to class. I know that for a fact. And if you skipped your tutoring sessions too, they got growth for that too. There are a lot of guys that didn't even need tutoring sessions. They just if you got like a missed assignment, they would assign you a tutor for no reason.
And we had that at Miami with like the class checkers, like they'd be random. So like you didn't know what day they're going to show up and outside of the classroom with their checkboard. And then, sometimes you'd have to text other guys, hey, the checker's here. So get over here quickly before class starts.
Yeah.
But I was one of the guys who, I was there for school and, not Cardell Jones, but I went to play school first and foremost.
The funny thing about Cardale too is I was pretty close to Cardale when he was at school, and he was not a bad student at all. Like out of all the dudes I was with, it's so funny. I think that tweet came out when he must have got frustrated or something. It's so, out of all the dudes, it's so funny because people always bring up Cardell Jones, because that tweet. But he was not a bad student at all. I mean, I could tell you some stories of some dudes that I would sit down with them. I'd be like, okay, hey, my name's Josh. And they'd be like, let me stop you right there. I'm going to the NFL. This is how I was like, okay, well.
Don't need this shit. Don't need this. Yeah. Get this calculus out of here.
I would say, I'm not exaggerating. 90% of the dudes that would start out with the whole I'm going to the NFL, they got everybody. Most people at Ohio State get a shot. Most people, whether it's training camp invite or something like that, but no, those guys were not in those guys never played a full season.
They were Master Teague.
Yeah. Matter of fact, the one texted me after his rookie year when he got cut, and he said, "Hey, do you got a job? Where are you working now?"
That's funny.
Yeah. So what goes around comes around, I guess. But
I think Freeman, I don't know, two things. One, I think that's just what every Notre Dame coach says. Notre Dame loves to play that whole weird, different, we go to class, whatever. I could tell you from people I know and from being there that it's a little fluid. Not everybody is taking the same course load as everybody else there.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But but I don't care about that. I think the reason why I care is because the school makes such a scene about pretending to be different. But Freeman, I look at it this way, as simple as possible. Freeman is riding the wave of he's this cool young guy who's played before. So he's going into the homes of a lot of these kids and can relate to them. I mean, he's only 33, which is significantly older than an 18-year-old, but it's a lot different than a 50-year-old man coming in your house, right? Or a 70-year-old Nick Saban. So I'm curious to see what happens, right? So this is the initial buzz, right? Can he sustain it? Can he keep these kids? Are they going to leave the second they don't get playing time? What's the real quality of these recruits? So, everyone's buzzing. Notre Dame's got the number one class, but I don't know, man. Maryland grabbed a bunch of 5-stars a year ago, and they all transferred out. I don't know.
So the thing about the recruiting rankings this early too is it really means nothing. I mean, Alabama's got the 40th recruiting class. You know what I mean? And you're getting people just because Carnell Tate. And that's why I try not to get all hooked up. And as a matter of fact, I'm still watching tape on the guys for Ohio State that committed this year. Maybe that's one of my big faults is I don't get too overhyped about guys that aren't even in school yet or are 6 months away from putting their name on the dotted line because anything could change. And I fully expect – I don't know if Notre Dame's going to lose recruits, but if you think that the recruiting standards are going to stay the way they are, you're insane. Alabama's going to get theirs. Notre Dame, I would be blown away if Notre Dame ends up with the top 5 class. I think they can. I think Marcus Freeman's a great coach. I think he was a great hire. I think he's ultra smooth. He's cool. He's a cool dude. He is. I think he's a smart guy. He's hiring smart people around him. But
yeah, when I was so I guess too. So when I was writing for Irish breakdown, I was talking to a lot of recruits, and it was a similar thing. They were saying like he's very relatable, and so like I go 2 steps back. I know when people were getting recruited by Charlie Weiss, they told me like one of his things was he would just show up with his Super Bowl rings, right, and be like, "Look at this, I know what I'm doing." Like, come to Notre Dame. Seemed to work. He got some good kids. Then you have Brian Kelly. He comes in. I don't know. I don't know.
Was he dry humping recruits back then?
No, he wasn't drying up on recruits. But the thing about him when you talk to a lot of players is the guy he is once you sign isn't the guy he is when he's recruiting you.
The car salesman.
Yeah. So see how he does in LSU. But
that's not his fault. This whole time he had a Southern accent. We didn't even know.
Yeah.
He was suppressing that, dude. He finally beat the true him down at the Baton Rouge.
I don't want to say anything crazy about Brian Kelly because people have told me some really personal stories that if I share them, like it would be very obvious, like who people are. So I'll leave it at that. A lot more players are probably going to be coming around the program now that he's gone. I'll put it that way. But with Freeman, right, again, like he's this young guy. He played, right? That's a huge difference. So like he's going to these kids. He's talking to them about playing linebacker. He played. He's talking to kids about going to the NFL. He was there for a minute, right? Like he
was there for a couple of years. I mean, he was there for 3 years or so, wasn't he?
You would know better than me.
Yeah,
I think he was with the Bears for. I don't think like Ryan Day was in the NFL for like a cup of coffee. You know, he went to New Hampshire, broke a bunch of records in San Francisco or whoever it was like, you want to come over to training camp? You can go home now, though. I think Marcus Freeman was getting a paycheck for a bit. I think.
So he's got a lot more like clout, you know, with the young kids, I think, and I think it goes a long way. And I think he's just cool, man. Like Brian Kelly wasn't cool, Charlie Weiss wasn't cool. Like, so you want to go play for this guy because he's cool, but then what really matters really is, can you actually win games there? Can you get developed there? Can you go pro there? And if that's all the case, dude, Notre Dame might become a powerhouse again.
Well, I don't think they're not a power. I don't think that they're not a powerhouse. Brian Kelly was good. Brian Kelly was a good coach.
They're like right, like that second tier. I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Like where like they're you're gonna have a good like a really good season here and there, but they're consistent, but not.
I don't know
Georgia or Clemson or Bama on like your typical year.
But is that fair? Because you're comparing. Let's compare Notre Dame to Georgia.
Well, that's powerhouse, right?
Yeah, that's who I would consider.
But we're talking about Notre Dame. First of all, they're always in the playoff picture, right? They're always in the playoff picture. Second of all, when you look at their schedule compared to a team like Georgia or Clemson, they're playing USC, BYU, Michigan, Purdue. You'd be hard pressed to go back and ever find a cupcake schedule for Notre Dame, right?
Notre Dame to me feels like Washington was a few years ago, right? Just on the standpoint of like they're good, but they're not at that next level yet. And every time you match them up with one of those elite teams, they kind of get exposed, right? Like they just don't have the speed or they don't have the depth. Like the biggest thing going back to Notre Dame playing Clemson, gosh, man, I hammered that spread. It was minus 33.5. I've never seen a team, Notre Dame, 33.5 point underdogs, and they covered the spread. But anyways, once Julian Love went down, right, who's an NFL corner, it was like they had nobody to replace him, and Clemson just attacked this like backup corner and went nuts, right? So like that's the difference between Notre Dame and all these other schools. Like they have one guy really at each spot, and anytime they have to play that backup, like that kid coming in isn't Cardale Jones. He isn't DJ Ungalele or any of these guys that just plug and play.
I don't know if I don't know if that's fair. I don't want to act like I'm a big Notre Dame guy, but like, I mean, look at Alabama. Alabama lost the national championship, not because Georgia's better than them. They lost the national championship because they had John Mechie and Jamison Williams got hurt. That's it. That's what it boils down to. Because 2 weeks prior, we saw one of those guys healthy, and they torched him. They couldn't stop him. You know what I mean? We see Clemson this past year. Clemson was not very good, and they didn't have a Trevor Lawrence, they didn't have a Deshaun Watson, they didn't have Kelly Bryant for the first time in a while. I just don't know if what I mean. I've seen Ohio State too, where they lose a piece. I mean, Ohio State was not good last year at all. If Ohio State played Notre Dame last year, it would be really hard for me to put money down on Ohio State with the way their defense played.
It might be close for a half, but I don't know. We'll see what the new Notre Dame looks like. But you talk about Bama, right? I mean, Mechie went second round. maybe he's a first rounder if he doesn't get hurt.
Well, I would agree with that. When I said that, a lot of people disagreed and called me an idiot, but I would agree with that.
But even if he's second round, right? When's the last time Notre Dame had two guys on offense go back to back? Maybe offensive linemen? Like,
first of all, Jeff Samardzija, okay,
didn't play in the NFL.
We all know that he'd be in the Hall of Fame right now.
Yeah. Would have loved to see it.
What about when they had the running back that beat his girlfriend up and killed her? You know, that backfield.
Whoa. Who? What?
What was that guy's name? He played for the Texans for like just a second.
Oh, Sierra Wood. He killed his girlfriend's kid. Yeah.
There you go, dude. That backfield. That was a killer.
Yeah. That's brutal.
The whole thing about the quarterbacks, too, Notre Dame always has great quarterbacks. It's just they're always on the bench. Don't you remember that 3-year span in a row where they'd start the guy from the previous year and they'd be like, This guy sucks now. Get him out of here. Who was it? Who started that off?
So it started right with Everett Golson. And then
behind
Everett Golson was Malik Zaire. And behind Malik Zaire was Deshaun Kaiser. And behind Deshaun Kaiser was Brandon Wimbush.
Deshaun Kaiser was legit though.
He should have stayed another year probably.
Yeah, if he stayed, they would have had a team.
He was legit. I thought he was going to be the truth of the Browns.
Well, part of why he didn't stay is some of the stuff I talked about a few minutes ago.
He's definitely a weirdo. You know, Urban Meyer. No one shed a tear for Urban Meyer when he left either.
Yeah.
If you talk to the former players about Urban Meyer, they'll tell you, they'll be like, "Yeah, he's great. He's awesome. He's a great coach." Don't want to hang out with him anymore thoh. You know what I mean? Like, kind of that deal, but it's the opposite of what we had at Valpo, where we didn't want to hang out with him, and he was a terrible coach. So you can't have everything, guys.
Did you have?
He's hanging around. I mean,
Christian.
Yeah, for those that don't know, our former coach. There's a new league. There's a new hot league in Major League Football.
We should try to play in it, man. We should see if we can get a shot.
I have a guy playing in that league. Actually,
yeah,
really,
a corner that just signed.
They should probably not try to play in that league.
Hey guys,
I mean, when you're out of options, you gotta.
No, I'm like, if there's a 22-year-old guy playing in that league, it is not the league for me.
Well, the only reason I think it might be somewhat legit is because Jerry Glanville's coaching in it, and Jerry Glanville has a pretty good track record. I mean, we're talking about a guy who coached in Super Bowls.
Terry Shea's a coach too, and he coached like 10 years in the league.
Yeah, so there's some name. Well, I mean, Terry Shea's a little bit different because I don't think Terry Shea has, in a lack of a better term, fuck you money. Jerry Glanville, he don't need to get out of bed for, you know what I mean? He doesn't need to get it. He doesn't need to do anything. You're talking about a guy who's a head coach, defensive coordinator at the highest level for a long time. So his name's attached to it. I don't know.
So there's a lot of spring league guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coming over.
But even then, I don't know, because the USFL had such a great year this year, and my understanding too, from people that are closer to league than me, is that they're trying to lock guys down for next year because they're clinching their buttholes because the XFL. Austin, you probably know. First of all, I didn't even give you guys a proper introduction. Austin and Nate, they host Around the Gridiron, which you guys haven't had an episode in like 2 weeks, by the way.
We suck, man.
All right. Whoa, Keely, don't put that out there, man.
I'm just letting you know. I got my notification set, but that's why I invited you guys on, because your last episode, you guys talked about the NIL.
Tomorrow will be a month since our last episode.
Been that long,
dude?
Yeah, I just checked the other day. But we've had stuff going on. We're busy. The NFL's been pretty slow.
You can't rush greatness, man.
That's right.
Well, with that said, Austin is an agent. Okay, so highly reputable person to talk to. So we got him on the show to talk about NIL. And Nate, he's got a verified Twitter account, which is more than I can say from myself.
Yeah, that's more than I got.
And he writes for USA Today's Bears Wire, and then he used to write for Irish Breakdown.
Yeah, Irish Breakdown.
SI. Yeah, so so both these guys have far superior resumes to me, so they have a little bit less time. But the shows are straight fire. When you guys get rolling, the last show was good. There was something I wanted to bitch at Austin about, though, and I can't remember what it was. I told Nate about it, and I can't remember what it was. I think you called Garrett Wilson trash or something. I can't remember what it was.
Oh yeah, Garrett Wolf. Yeah.
But I'll think about it. Not Garrett Wolf.
Garrett Wilson. Garrett
Wolf's a legend. He's a Chicago.
I think that was like one of the earlier ones, but yeah, I don't think he's trash. I think.
Yeah. Now you're on Ohio State podcast.
I do like I'm not going to say his name right. The Smith in
Jackson Smith-Njigba.
Yeah, I like him a lot. Man.
Poor Donovan James. Donovan came on this show, my very first podcast. It's not his fault at all. The dude that was supposed to be my co-host bailed on me. Okay, right before the first episode. So I feverishly texting Donovan because Donovan knows his shit. Donovan worked for 24/7 Sports, yada yada, recruit, all that shit. He actually works for Trojans Wire now for USA Today. He thanked me the other day. Said, "Hey man, thanks for helping me get that job." And I said, "I didn't do anything. I maybe mentioned your name twice 6 months ago, but that's awesome, bro." But he got on the show 2 minutes before I started recording. He butchered Jackson Smith-Njigba's name, and the 3 listeners let me know it. They let me fucking know it, dude. They were like, "Come on, what do you doesn't know his name?" I was like, guys,
I'll tell you what, man, you'd be surprised who's out there listening and watching your stuff and just like
they just let you know.
Taking notes.
It always surprises me, man. Like if I like tweet some random shit out there and then maybe a day or two later I see like 7 of the Chicago blogs running like a similar theme off of that tweet. I'm just like, yeah.
Oh, do you want to talk about your viral tweet about quarterbacks?
Oh, the one from yesterday? Yeah. Well, okay, yeah. I mean, I know that's not what we're here to talk about, but
it works out well because it was centered around Justin Fields, who played quarterback at Ohio State. So let's talk about it. Yeah.
Basically, I wrote a piece saying, what if Justin Fields isn't a franchise quarterback and he's just a guy, right?
Which is entirely possible. It's entirely possible, and it might not be his fault, right? The NFL is very fickle, and there's a lot of variables that have to go into play for him to be successful, even if he was great. It's just how it works.
Absolutely. And I kind of said, okay, getting a franchise quarterback is hard, right? And I said there's not a lot of teams that have them, and I said there's 4 today, right? Buffalo, Cincinnati, Kansas City, Baltimore. And really, I just based that on like, okay, these are young guys in all these systems that have been to the playoffs or are consistently in the playoffs. One has a Super Bowl ring. One went to a Super Bowl. The other one has an MVP. I think Josh Allen, everyone's on board.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
And I was like, so that means, right, none of these other guys are franchise quarterbacks. I started laying them out. And guys are like, oh, well, what about Brady? And I'm like, dude, he's 44. Like, yes. Was he a franchise quarterback? Absolutely. Are you building around Tom Brady today? No. I mean, the guy was retired 6 months ago, making commercials. Like, come on. Like, that's not your franchise.
Got tired of his family.
I think the confusion may have been because although I do disagree with I agreed with the majority of your statement. I do think that there are more than 4 quarterbacks, but I think I'm more generous towards the guys that you had in purgatory. Like Justin Herbert, I think that he's a franchise quarterback.
I was going to say he's the one guy that I would throw in as well. I think that's going to take that leap this year and kind of be in that conversation.
So but I get what he's in my like. You got to do something to like.
But I get why you have him off, right? Because your list is limited. Hey, these are the guys that did it that you would be willing to sell your soul for right now, and you'll have 10 more years with them. That's basically what you're saying. But
I mean, there's guys that are close. Herbert's close for sure.
Yeah, but people weren't viewing it that way. When you put that out there, they're like, what are you talking about? You can win the Super Bowl now with these guys. But you're more referencing like, no, I don't want to. I'm not talking about winning the Super Bowl now. I'm talking about potentially winning 10 more fucking Super Bowls. And none of those guys can do that because they're 40.
Who's a guy? Yeah, exactly. Who's a guy you're not going to listen to a phone call about? And but I also said, okay, so yeah, like Justin Fields, what if he's just average, right? But like not like one of those types of guys, but like you want to replace him. So I was like, you could go get a Matt Stafford or a Case Keenum or whatever, that type of guy. But this is all under.
Why did you say Case Keenum in the same breath as Matt Stafford? Because now I'm starting not to have faith in you.
Oh, he's just an older quarterback, right? That I think the one year.
Cousins.
Yeah, Cousins. I think Cousins was on my list. Like, but this is all under the premise of like, hey, the Bears are just like a decent quarterback away from making a run. So I'm like, let's really.
Do you really believe that though? Can I ask that?
Well, no. But I was saying everybody thinks it's all like magic, and like we got these guys, they're going to rebuild. Justin Fields is also the franchise quarterback. Darnell Mooney is also the next Stephon Diggs. Like we've got all of this magic just sitting right there on the lakefront, and it's all going to come together. And I'm like, all right, what if we're just halfway realistic and we say they build a good team, but Fields is just okay? right? Or the other way around. I don't know how this would happen. Fields is amazing, and the team stinks, right? Like to get both, like Cincinnati kind of has right now, miracle, man. Like that never happens.
Well, I think, and it's funny because I rooted entirely against the Cincinnati draft and Jamar Chase, but they had a very unique opportunity. It's almost like they were able to identify. When they knew they didn't have an offensive line, what they did is they were like, okay, well, let's grab we know how to identify wide receivers. We already have a decent cupboard full of wide receivers. Let's just make the offense revolve around the quick game, and then we'll eventually develop the offensive line. He's got a great relationship with Jamar Chase because Penei Sewell was a badass. Penei Sewell was a bad. He stopped Aaron. Aaron Donald didn't get shit on him, right? But you're going for that guy with the connection with Joe Burrow. I think there was a lot of variables that kind of clicked for that team. The defensive line was already really close. They spent a lot of money in free agency. I mean, that whole team was on a very much another level compared to where Chicago's at in their rebuilding. I mean, that's how I feel it.
Stinks. Chicago stinks, man.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like if you trace back Cincinnati's last 3 years, all their signings, every move they made, you're like, okay, that makes sense. That connects that dot. Chicago, it's kind of like, I don't know what to do. We should sign this guy. Darnell Mooney's our only wide receiver. So let's see what Allen Robinson's doing. Is he healthy yet?
I think it's a new guy, young guy, right? It's his first time in GM. I think he's playing it safe. And I think also, like, he probably wants to get a lot of this stuff off of the roster, but you can only cut so much. You still need 53. So Bears stink. But yeah, people were so mad, and but it's great, right? Because when I wrote it, and obviously I hadn't written in a while, like we haven't podcasted in a while, I was just thinking like, oh, this kind of piss people off. And I'll tell you what, man, it's kind of fun sometimes, like to go read the comments and people are like, this is the stupidest thing. Like someone was like, I'm going to unfollow Bears Wire. They're like, I'm going to unfollow Bears Wire for this. And I was just like, wow, like how great is it that I can write something and it makes people feel like this? You know what I mean? Like,
crazy, man.
Ruins their day.
It's crazy, dude. It's crazy, dude. I wrote an article about the John Cooper and how if the playoffs were around today, when the playoffs were around when John Cooper coached, because John Cooper goes down as one of the people call him one of the worst Ohio State coaches in history because he lost to Michigan like 9 times out of the 10 years he was there, basically. And they always had these really great teams, great recruiter, yada, 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 and they just couldn't beat Michigan. And I wrote an article about how if the playoffs were around, we actually would have made the playoffs like 4 or 5 times with him in it. And people, I mean, it probably was the most read article of that month, and no one liked it. Not one positive comment. There was one Facebook thread that had because we repost shit. There was one Facebook thread that had over 1,000 comments, and I was scrolling through a majority of them when I was taking a dump. They were all calling me an idiot, telling me to go suck at dicks. People were copy and pasting Wikipedia pages with dude, it was rough. I was like, God damn, no one liked this guy. It's crazy. It's crazy. And it's so weird too, because the guy's a college football Hall of Famer. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like what you're saying too. It's like, there's a middle ground, boys. Like, we don't have to set the Facebook page ablaze.
My favorite was when I was at Irish Breakdown, the guy that runs it, he played D3 and then he like coached a little bit. And like when people didn't like what he wrote, they're like, oh, coming from a guy that freaking played D3. And I'm like, what?
Don't play the game, man. Jeez.
So you either get that or you get the just because you played doesn't mean you know more than anybody. It's like I never said that. Okay.
But it definitely does. It absolutely
does. But it does make my resume a little better than yours. Okay.
Like you don't have to be a jerk about it, but like, come on.
But you do deserve a little bit of credit. It's like, oh, okay, well.
If you haven't been out there since like Pee Wee football, like you probably don't know as much as I know. Like, you know what I mean? Hey, that's part of it, right?
Like, guys are yelling at you, especially the old guys. It's like, dude, you ran the triple option. Like, you don't know what the hell is going on.
Well,
the beer.
I gotta remove him now. I gotta remove Nate now because he bashed the triple option. It's gone.
Oh, yes.
We won't have any triple option bashing here. I almost bashed you. What'd you say?
Did your high school run the triple option?
Oh God, no! I wish we ran the wing T. Bro.
Mine did, and it sucked, man. I hated it.
You ran wing T?
We did we call it like the flex bone, but it was we had like the two with wings and your B back. Or whatever.
You ran the wing T too?
We called the
there
flex
is a
bone. It was like
difference.
slightly different, but it was like basically the same shit.
Dude, no, dude. Because the wishbone,
fucking off.
the wishbone at least like it's about misdirection. The wing tee's supposed to be about misdirection, but it was invented back when the ball was round. So like it was like, where's the ball? Oh yeah, dude. And all the motions are timed up. It's basically like Canadian football. All the motions are timed up with the snap. So whichever wing is motioning, the defensive line, you can just jump the snap because as soon as he hits the middle, that's when it's going to be snapped. The wishbone there's a little bit nuance to it. It was invented when the football was not completely round and you could fake snap it. So there's a little bit more nuance. The wing tee is just fucking rough, dude. It's rough. So you'd have guys just jumping up. Like guys would be the defensive line would always be out of their snap before offense. Always. Because he always snapped it, dude. It was so bad. Hated it.
I couldn't imagine playing for some shit like that.
Oh man, looking back, I wish I went to like a spread school, man. And
oh, I'm sure you played wide receiver.
yeah, so
yeah.
I played blocker. That's what I really played in the flex bone shit. I mean, like, passing like 10 times a game if we're lucky, and
you made a hell of a career of it, though. I mean,
those are the teams, though.
Oh, dude, my high school team. We were 4th in the country by max preps my junior year, and won a state championship. But
like
it worked, but wasn't.
That's the way to win. That's the way to win high school football. It's just power run. Yeah, like teams can't hold up, man. Teams can't hold up.
Yeah. Well, and then back when I was a kid, you couldn't really. So my senior year, our head coach, God bless him, but he went to one Tony Franklin camp. Do you guys remember Tony Franklin?
Name sounds familiar.
Tony Franklin, he's
Missouri?
Like maybe he coached like 80. He's like the poor man's Mike Leach. It's like if you had 50. It's like if the Mike Leach camp is $50, the Tony Franklin camp is $15. Oh, I got $15. That's that's basically what Dale Carlson probably went to the Tony Franklin camp.
Oh, okay, yeah, no.
I was gonna ask, was Carlson your guys' head coach?
Yeah.
So he recruited me when I was looking at Valpo as well. I think that was his. I think my freshman year in college was his last year before he got let go or whatever happened.
He was a bit of a jerk.
Well, I'm rambling on. So let's talk about Major League Football. Let's talk about it because they made a couple hires. They hired their coaching staffs. There's going to be an Ohio team, the Ohio Force. Okay, they hired 2 former Buckeyes and Bill Connolly.
That's where my guy's going.
With the Ohio Force? No way.
Yeah. They're in Canton, right?
Yeah, you're gonna have to tell me because the rosters aren't released yet. That's not.
He literally signed like yesterday.
Because I only have a list of like supposedly the 6 players who have signed. It's like 3 quarterbacks and 3 offensive linemen. So apparently there's a lot more than they're released.
Yeah, I mean they're like working the rosters now, getting contracts out. So my guy signed like literally like last night.
Interesting. And then Winfield Garnett is going to be the defensive coordinator, I believe, for the Ohio Force, and that's another former Ohio State player. Played defensive tackle in the late '90s. Played in the NFL for a bit. Bill Connolly played with Woody. He played under Woody Hayes. Was also an assistant coach under Cooper. Was actually the head coach for Ohio Dominican after Dale Carlson left to take on the Valparaiso job. Now one's the head coach at football, Major League Football, and the other one is the wide receivers coach for the Arkansas Attack. Our old college football coach is the wide receivers coach for the Arkansas Attack. Nate, how's that make you feel, man? Because technically his football career is
for a professional football coach.
yeah, we did. That's right. I think we talked last time. He's like connected to Hal Mummy somehow. So I think like once we found that out,
that was his recruiting pitch. Like when he's like,
oh really?
I was their Wes Welker recruit, and
was
the Leach and like Mummy tree or Mummy.
Was Hal Mummy like his coach in college or something?
I can't remember you guys would know better than I would, but
I thought we looked it up. They worked together or something.
Did they? But I don't know. Was Hal Mummy a good coach? I know he was like an exciting, sexy coach. And when he coached
really, but his son Matt is a pretty good OC. He was just with Nevada, and I think Matt Mummy
sounds like a Marvel superhero.
Yeah. He's a good coach actually, or he's gotten some good results. So.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. There's your Buckeye connection to Major League Football. I've had you guys on the phone for 30 minutes. We haven't even talked about the NIL stuff. I've been dying to have Austin on to talk about NIL because you are the man that knows all about the deals, baby. So like, and as I told you before, I'm in Ohio, so I'm seeing CJ Stroud signed a deal with a Bentley dealership, and apparently he doesn't like Bentleys, so now he's got like a $200,000 Mercedes, G wagon or whatever. All the new recruit Jack Swear's got a $75,000 truck. Never he got that before he even took a snap at Ohio State. We talked about CJ Hicks had an autograph signing a month ago where he was charging like $25 a pop, and there's 500 people in line. The active players are constantly signing autographs now. And another question that I had for you, or something I wanted to bring up, is now we're talking about those guys even having trading cards. Like this is a Quinn Ewers trading card. Like that would never happen.
Is it a Sage Collectibles or Leaf? Oh, Leaf. Okay.
Leaf, yeah.
Nice.
So like, what's going on, man? How is NIL changing the landscape of college football? Like because to me it seems like I'll let you talk because I have some strong opinions.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good, but there's also bad to it. Being at Miami, a lot of my teammates were, came from really rough backgrounds. Good amount of them had kids while we were in college that they were bringing into the locker room. So, they get like their scholarship check and sending home to mom, or having to buy diapers with it. So I think it's done a lot of good for a lot of people that they don't have a big worry that they normally would have, just having some extra money on the table. Now, you mentioned like the Ohio State piece, that's one of the few schools where you're seeing like
Quinn Ewers made $3 million last year.
That's the very highest end that it gets. Miami
didn't take a snap.
Texas A&M, USC. These guys are making a lot of these guys are making six figures.
You guys talked about this on your last show. Jordan Addison basically went to USC because they wrote him a big ass check.
Yeah. So that's one side of it where it's really very few and far between. The majority of guys, they're getting like a couple $100 per deal. Some schools maybe a few grand per deal if they have a decent social media following, where it's really more like, hey, either some beer money or at least some money where you're not having to get a second job or worry about your meals or anything like that. So I think the vast majority of students are in that boat across all sports, but especially football. I think the downside is, again, and I've mentioned this before, like I'm not a big fan of like a lot of regulation in general, but I think this is something where there needs to be a little bit more guidelines or rules where at least it's a bit more of an even playing field instead of like a school by school or a state law by state law base. You can't put a cap on what a guy can make because it's free market now, but I don't like the whole incentivizing high school players, and it's happening even though it's not supposed to, but incentivizing to sign with schools, and it's happening all over now, and it's really turning more into like a free agency. So as like a college football purist and it being like my favorite thing in the world, I don't like that aspect of, I think you should be able to transfer, but I don't think a school should be able to poach you and, buy you off from another school as well. So that's kind of the downside of my opinion. Nate, anything on top of that?
Do you have a solution? Well, do you have a solution?
I don't have this. So that's above my pay grade.
Okay.
I know what I don't like, but I don't know what the right way to fix it would be either. And that's tough. And I've been trying to think like almost the last year on that. And I really don't have a better way to do it, but I think there could be a better way to do it.
Do you think it's better now than it was before?
Yeah. So, guys were getting paid before. That was always happening. So,
but
I don't know the extent. Probably not the same extent.
You're talking maybe. First of all, let's take Alabama out of the equation because Alabama was paying. They probably were paying those players. Yeah, but let's say at Ohio State, say that they were paying someone, it was probably one or two guys.
Right.
It was probably your Braxton Millers.
Yeah. So I was going to say it's helping the average player
a
lot more now. I do think it's better because anyone I was a walk-on and only my mom would have bought my autograph. But when I was back home during like summers or breaks, I would train kids, that I used to work out with my trainer. And I would think like, hey, I still have like a decent name in my hometown. Like I could have put a camp on and, got some beer money and at least on like, training session, things like that, where even if it's not my autograph or, visiting a car dealership, I still could have got some money out of it. So I think it's good for, a lot of your non-revenue sports and your bottom of the middle of roster guys. I think it's getting a little ridiculous for like the top of roster guy, like your superstar players. But again, if the fan base wants to pay, then I can't blame a kid for taking money either. It's a hard predicament.
Nate, what do you got?
I think they got to do what's best for them, but I do think, to Austin's point, most of these guys aren't really making the big money. I think it's good headlines, and I think.
Can I ask this, because we're using the word big money a lot? What's big money, man? Because
I would say like 6-figure, 7-figure deals. Like I don't even think most kids are signing 6-figure deals.
I mean, the average deal for like a D1 athlete is like $500, like across all sports.
But you're counting all sports,
right? But
I don't.
And football probably a little bit higher than that. But
I don't give a shit about what they're making. I'll say.
We know who the highest paid. Just a quick aside: the highest paid athlete this past year in college
was it a women's volleyball player?
And Olivia Dunn or Dune, the gymnastics at LSU.
Well, we all think that's for different reasons.
Well, you said it, not me.
Is it not? I don't know. I don't know what she looks like. I can only assume her OnlyFans is fabulous. I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Oh, you're going to get canceled for that.
Anyway, Nate go. Carry on, Nate.
This is an equal opportunity platform. I can go get an OnlyFans, Who's to say?
Yeah. Look, I think, like we said, most of these kids aren't making big money. It's a great article. Way to get clicks and views. But again, most of these kids aren't getting paid, and so be it, but I do think Austin's got a good point. Like, hey, if you want to go run a camp or you want to go do something and use your name and likeness as a way to make money, even if it's only a few $1,000 or a few $100, you should be able to. Like this idea that, they couldn't have jerseys with their names on them sold in the bookstore or anything. It's like, why not? I mean,
that's not harming anyone.
Right. Yeah. I think looking back at it, probably if you let them get that money, it'd probably be a lot less than what they're paying some of the kids now. But dude, I think eventually it's going to get regulated. I think they're trying already. So we'll see what comes with it. But I kind of, as much as I hate to sound like an old man, I kind of agree with some of these coaches. Like, you shouldn't give 18-year-olds $2-3 million. Cause I'm like, if it was me, I would go blow it right away. Like I didn't.
Maybe literally. I don't. I don't know. I've never had enough money to even try drugs. That's what I'm saying. I don't know. That's the problem on my end.
No, man. Like I guess also I just look at like Jordan Addison, and it's like someone gives you $3 million in a house. Like, what's your real motivation to go out there and kill it? Like, check's already cashed. Like, I guess it's to try to get to the
sunset.
Yeah. Try to get the next check. Like, I do think it would be great if Quinn Ewers ends up being this just like con man who like never had any intentions of playing football, but was just going to keep cashing in NIL checks.
I knew you were going to say that because you love chaos. Yeah, you love chaos. You should work for like those. What's the behind the 30 for 30s? Just trying to find weird stories like that because you love that shit, dude. You love.
I do, dude. It would be so great if he came out and just like really
just retires tomorrow.
Yeah.
You see him.
I've accomplished all I've wanted to.
I never wanted to play.
Yeah, it'd be funny. Like if Hudson Card beats him out, or Hudson Card or whatever his name is beats him out this year, he transfers again to like Alabama, makes like $3 more million. Like we're talking, and then he does it again. Only takes like 3 snaps his entire college career. Makes like $20 million.
Dude, if the story keeps being
Tate Martell had this when he was around.
Yeah, dude.
Tate Martell's high school tape was the sickest.
He was nice, man. And
can't believe how wrong I was about that.
I saw. So when he transferred to Miami, I went to. It was their second spring practice, or like their open scrimmage. But he's throwing balls like into the dirt, like no spiral. I was just like, what happened?
He's not good. Yeah, he was not good.
Because I saw that tape of him versus Rutgers. I was like, oh, this kid has promise. Like he might do something. And I saw the high school tape. Like, seeing him in person, I was like, man, this guy is awful. Like, how was he even at this? It was crazy. So
he could run though. He was like flying when he was like getting in the open field.
Yeah. When I did a scouting report when I was back at Scarlet Game, and the person I compared him to, I think I compared him to like Les Horvath, which everybody's like, why did you compare him to somebody who played in the 20s? I'm like, because he can win the Heisman Trophy. He could do it, but he's not going to do it throwing the ball. Like that's not what. Yeah. But he was good. But he was that good. He was that good at running the ball. I mean, if you looked at his high school tape, and then you looked at Lamar Jackson's college tape, you'd be like, dude, that guy's Tay Martell's by far the better runner. And then he would just run around until someone got open. He would just loft it up. But that works in college.
I think he also benefited from like what I was calling on one tweet thread, like the Michael Vick experience. Like I think Tate got a lot of that Johnny Manziel love where people are like, oh, this is going to be another Manziel. Like he's going to be able to be our guy. Because he's like a little shorter, scrambles a ton, had a lot of those same just like, fuck it, somebody's down there, chuck it down the field type of passes.
Yeah. And again, I was living still in Miami at that time when he was down there. And, they tried to move him to receiver. He played receiver the first game this season versus Florida. I think he could have been an NFL receiver had he really stuck with it and like not wanted to push back and play quarterback. Because dude, his quickness is elite. I mean, he was built. I think
a different mindset. He was kind of a pussy too, though. He didn't like to get hit.
He was right. I think if he would have bought in and fully embraced it, I think he had the raw traits, but he didn't have the mentality for it. But I think he could have been a really good slot, but he kept pushing back, wanting to play receiver. Then I'd see him out at bars at Friday nights before games. And that was kind of the story with him. So
there are some college quarterbacks, because most NFL quarterbacks, when they scramble, they don't scramble to get hit. Like there's some, like Antoine Randall, when that dude pulled the ball down at Indiana, you might be getting rocked. That dude showed no fear. You know what I mean? Who's the big ass dude that played for UAB and played wide receiver for the Packers and Vikings?
Oh yeah. Oh, I forget.
I mean, that dude. I remember he stiffed armed a defensive tackle. That dude.
We're going down memory lane here. Yeah.
I can't remember the guy's name, but but that's the kind you could find guys like that in college where it's like, oh, that guy doesn't run like a quarterback. That guy's a quarterback who runs like a running back. Devin Gardner was the same way. Everybody can call Devin Gardner a pussy or whatever because of his struggles in the NFL. But that dude, when he ran with the ball, he didn't show fear. He juked you. He tried to do something. Tate Martell didn't do that. He was basically like, okay, I'm going to slide or I'm going to try to not get hit as much as possible.
Are you talking about Daryl Hackney?
That dude was legit, bro.
Or Joe Webb? Which one?
Both. UAB had a string of quarterbacks that would just lower the boom, bro.
I love this. Like, for as much as you say I love chaos, you love small school football. Like, that's a Ohio reference at UAB. UAB canceled their football team and brought it back. Like, I
know. It's a goddamn shame, bro. Goddamn shame. They had one of their best defensive tackles. One of my favorite players of all time played at UAB. His defensive tackles. Last name was Mourinho, and he was just tatted up with like flames, and he had the neck thing. He was like this just angry, tatted up white guy. His last name was Marino. Google it after the game. I think he plays the CFL now, and you'd be like, yeah, this guy's legit. Dude, he's like 5'11", 290 pounds.
I miss the cliche like white guy, middle linebacker. Like I feel like the new NFL has robbed us of that. Because I saw some old like Zach Thomas clips, and I'm just like, dude, the NFL has killed this guy. Like this position, the guy that plays this position can't play. Like. Just
the Hall of Fame, man.
And he was undersized when he played. He was undersized when he played. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's like now you think that like the NFL, not only was he so you went from him being too small to be played. It's like the NFL transition be like, oh wow, Zach Thomas would be perfect for this game. Too slow. And it's like, you know what I mean? Like the timeline is just, it's weird, man. The NFL game, it's.
Well, like the days of like the like Bill Romanowski's and like these just like big Cushing was like the last maybe.
But those guys were
him and Matthews. I don't know if they left at the same time.
I don't remember. I was so young when Romanowski was in his prime, dude.
Just like mean. Yeah. Like remember Cushing smashed that guy like without a helmet and like. Yeah. Like, where's that guy in football anymore?
Cushing was juicing the whole time, too. So, like, that's why he was mean, bro. That was the
was. Dude, he got caught and still won Defensive Rookie of the Year. Do you remember that?
Crazy.
Yeah, bro.
He got suspended for steroids, or it was HGH.
God bless him.
And then they still gave him the award, just like, whatever.
God bless him. That's what I say.
They knew what would happen if they didn't.
Yeah.
If a guy wants to juice. That's what I say.
Like, dude, here's a random name, Josh. Zach Boren, or whatever the Boren was, the linebacker.
Well, there's three. There's three brothers.
Whichever one got basically murdered by Clemson because they kept putting him in the slot on a receiver. It's just like, but he was.
Are you talking about Bourne or Tough Borland?
Tough.
Oh, Borland.
Yeah. Oh, that poor boy. That's not his fault. He went. First of all, everybody knew he wasn't good, and they still stuck him out there. And it was against Alabama against Devontae Smith.
Yeah, against Devontae Smith. But he was a great in the box linebacker. You know what I mean? Like if somebody's running,
he was so bad.
He was bad. I thought he was like,
dude. No, you know what's funny? I was talking to another Ohio State writer, and he said the same thing. He was like, Tough Borland. He really played like his name. And I'm like, Tough Borland was not good. He was an absolute liability.
Maybe this is like stereotyping, but I'm like,
are you thinking Pete
Warner named Tough? Like he's got to be good. Like
Pete Warner was a badass.
He was good, dude. He was unappreciated.
That's I wrote an article about that recently because I compared.
Okay.
Same hometown as me, but
Pete Warner.
Yeah, went different high school, but yeah, from.
His career was very underappreciated because when he played, I was like, man, Pete Warner's getting beat by Pat Fryermuth. He's getting beat here, he's getting beat there. But what I didn't realize at the time, now that I'm looking back on it, is that he wasn't the only good linebacker, but he was so good at coverage that they would take him and place him against guys like Pat Fryermuth. And they'd be like, okay, you might win 50%. All we do is need you to win 50% of the time. It was Pat Fryermuth and Mike Gesicki that worked him like a rodeo clown. But it's like looking back, it's like no one else could do it.
NFL wide receivers, basically, like tight
ends. Yeah. It's like, well, no one else could do what he was going to do, and you would see he'd be all over the field. You look at his stats; it's like, oh man, he did a lot more than I give him credit for.
He's still
he had a really good rookie year,
Yeah. But you're talking the classic white guy middle linebacker. You're talking about Andy Katzenmoyer, bro. The visor, the big neck roll, the weird, the tattoo of the what's
barbed wire?
Barbed wire, yeah, the old school barbed wire tattoo. Articles constantly coming out. Is he going to be?
That's like too old school. That's too old school. That was like '90s, early 2000s. Like there were guys when we were around, like Penn State. Who was the
All
Posluszny, yeah.
He was nice. Dan Connor, all those Penn State linebackers.
Well, remember Stanford had Toby Gerhart.
Oh, I saw something on Twitter of him recently.
Yeah, the running back, and then they had that guy that played like Owen Marisa. Linebacker.
He was drafted by the Browns. I thought he was gonna be so dope, dude. I was like, oh, they got a two-way player.
So did I. I'm like, wow. And it was also very stereotypical. I'm like, oh man, this like two-way gritty white kid from Stanford. I'm like, he's gonna find a way to stay in the league for like 20 years. Like he's just, whether it's on special teams, he'll find a way. And no, he was out of there.
My dad did that a couple years ago. God, I can't remember who the Browns drafted. The Browns drafted. They drafted a line. I think it was Mack Wilson. Was it Mack Wilson?
Oh, Mack Wilson. Yeah.
They drafted a linebacker, and it was like in the third round or whatever. And there was the white guy from Wisconsin. I can't remember who it was. Jonathan? No. Bocce? Fuck, I can't. It's someone who's actually good.
Schobert?
Maybe it was Schobert. Maybe it was the Schobert draft. But they drafted some slow white guy because they drafted Schobert. Maybe that was it. Whatever. Either way it was, my dad was like, well, I'm glad they drafted that white guy from Wisconsin because those guys are in the league for like 10 years. I'm like, Dad.
Dude, it's just like.
That is so
stereotype.
But like now, I'm like, wait a second. That's really accurate, actually. Like those guys are always in the league for 10 years.
Dude, I swear you just like look up and you're like, this guy's still playing linebacker?
Yeah.
And it's like.
And they're always okay. Like they always have like 15 starts. You know what I mean? They're not in like the Pro Bowl or All Pro or anything, but like they'll have like 3 Pro. I didn't know that guy was in the Pro Bowl in 1999. Well,
it's secretly the sweet spot in the NFL that like nobody talks about. Like some of these guys like find this like position and just hold. Well, like I thought Josh Cribbs was doing a great job until Cleveland was like, all right, we want you to be our starting wide receiver. And it's like, here goes the end of his career.
Where they changed the special teams rules too. They're like, oh, we're not gonna kick off at all anymore. And he's like, oh, I don't.
Yeah.
I guess I don't have a job. Like that was pretty rough. But do you have a solution?
Oh no, not at all.
I don't either, man. I don't know. I think
But you guys both
like
like it better now. You guys both like it better now than it was.
Oh yeah,
I think they should be. Yeah, I mean, do I like it more? I don't know, but do I think it should be allowed? Yes. I think it should
I
be.
disagree. I think I disagree because I think that
I think they should be able to make money in some way.
I don't have a problem with that. I think there's. Let me say. I think
I don't like how it's happening, but I like.
I think that there's a middle ground. I think that what they went all. I think what their thought process was like, no one's going to give these college kids money, and now they can't get the toothpaste back in the tube. I think that you know what I mean. I think it's a situation where like there are certain things where it's like this is fucking dumb, like the jersey thing. You're selling the jersey with the number. Just give them a cut of it. You're not even selling that many goddamn jerseys because people don't. That's not what they do. They're not going to invest money in a kid that's going to be with it for 3 years, despite what everybody. But they're not. That's just not, everybody I know that buys Ohio State jerseys gets them from China anyways for $20. They just, you know what I mean? Like I haven't seen someone buy a jersey at the stadium in forever. You know what I mean?
Dude, the one time I tried to buy
$120, no one wants to pay that shit.
That's right.
The one time I tried to buy an Alibaba like Permian Panthers Boobie Miles jersey. I ended up with like all this credit card fraud like a week later.
I bought a couple jerseys off it was like AliExpress.
Yeah. Oh, dude, they had a field day with my credit card.
I got like a Derrick Rose Memphis jersey. I got a few. I can't remember what else I got.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. And then
a couple Cubs jerseys. You're a Sox guy though, right?
Yeah, but
I got a couple. I got a Schwarber and a Chris Bryant. You can't tell the difference on those, like from the real thing though. It was like
some of them are good.
They're probably good. The same factory. It's just.
Oh yeah, you know they're so good.
Yeah.
But I don't have an issue with that. Like the video game thing. It's like, okay, I don't have an issue with that. People are coming up and bothering for autographs. Okay, maybe let them make a buck for that. But like, it's when you get these agents and the car dealers and the you get these guys that have what are they doing in Texas A&M where they have a collective.
Like, yeah, I don't like the collective stuff. That has to go. But you can't. It's not a business. It's like a group of donors just trying to pay.
Exactly.
You're not endorsing a product
I have an issue with guys making college decisions based off of how much they should get paid. Because at the end of the day, you're not getting paid enough. You're 18 years old. You're not going to get paid enough to set your life up. You need to be able to you need to make sure that you're making a good decision on where you're going. You're going to class. When you start to get all that money in front of you, and these guys are already their shit's already blurred. Their shit's already blurred. First of all, before they were getting paid, they still were getting free meals. I mean, they were getting they got a private gym. They had free transportation. They had they were getting free clothes. They all had nicer clothes than me because they were getting shit for free. Shit, Oregon's got a barber. I think Ohio State's got I think after I left they had a barber because when I left they were installing a water fountain. They were a waterfall because Alabama had a waterfall. Like, dude, if you just want to hang out at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. You basically don't have to pay your bills at all. Like, you know what I mean? Like you were already getting quite a bit of awesomeness that was coming your way. Plus you weren't paying for school. And anybody who's got $50,000 in student debt will tell you that's a pretty sweet deal. Right. And now when you look at, but I don't have a problem with them getting paid. I just have an issue with how I think it's changing them making decisions. Right. I think that there probably was a better way. Like, take these things that are really obvious that people were kind of screwing them on. We're screwing them on jerseys because we're making the jerseys. We're not putting the name out. We're screwing on the video game. We're making the video game. Let's just give them some money for it. Maybe put it in like an account that after you leave the school or after you graduate, you can give it to them. Something like that. I don't know what the answer is, but that would probably be something. But another thing too is like everybody talks about like, well, these kids are, they're taking care of their families and all that, and I get that, but you guys said it yourself. There's only like 3 guys in all of college football that are making life-changing money, right? At Ohio State, there's only really C.J. Stroud, a couple of them getting free cars and stuff, but ain't no one, the backup offensive tackle, that guy ain't getting dick. And Miami, Ohio, that guy ain't dick. There was one guy at OU, at Ohio University, that got an NIL deal last year, and it was because they gave him a sweet deal for leasing his car. He still had to pay the bill, by the way. It was like, they lowered his $250 payment to like $100 a month. Like that was that was the big Ohio University NIL deal. So you still got, thousands of athletes getting screwed. And you know what I mean? You think the Idaho Vandals are getting anything from this NIL deal? You think anybody's helping them? Fuck no.
No. Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Most of these guys aren't going to get any money, but to be honest, like, you kind of know that from the get-go, right? If you're playing at Idaho, you can't expect to get the same thing CJ Stroud's getting.
Yeah, I didn't mean it to sound like that. I'm just saying, like, but those guys, but the whole issue, the whole reason to start is because okay, these guys aren't getting what they deserve. You know, they were using Javon Kinlaw as an example. Like, oh, with Javon Kinlaw, he grew up, he had to sleep he went to a JUCO, and he was sleeping in the stands and drinking a water, you know, the neighbor's hose and shit like that. But for everyone, but that's the exception to the rule. Not everybody's like that, right? And most of the time, it's not. It's the like CJ Stroud, he's like the only guy that's getting paid. You know what I mean? And he was going to get paid anyways. If you play quarterback at Ohio State and you're above average, even if you're average, even if you suck, you can
always lay it down.
You can always get some tattoos.
If you suck and you're a nice guy, you're going to get a job that pays very, very well after. Look at Kenny Guyton. Kenny Guyton threw like 3 passes at Ohio State, and he's a coach at like Houston and shit. You know what I mean? Look at Steve Belisari. Steve Belisari is at the mall signing autographs for $20 a pop. You know what I mean? You can make a healthy living. JT Barrett. I bet JT Barrett makes $50,000 a year just signing autographs. The dude still charges $60 an autograph, dude. And he hasn't played a snap in the NFL. You can't, you know what I mean? Like if you just, I don't know. Those are the guys that are getting paid in NIL. I don't think.
I hear you. I think it's kind of like a lot of things, right? When you do like a quote unquote free market system, right? Like there's a select few that benefit. There's a lot that don't. And then there's a lot that are getting like something, but it's really not much, right? $500.
Yeah, for sure.
They're getting free food or they're getting whatever. But at the end of the day, kind of like you can know on your talent, like you kind of should understand, like I'm not a big money NIL person. Maybe one day I'll make the league and I'll make my money that. Like I don't feel bad for the kids because they have the opportunity to make the money. Part of being able to make the money comes with how talented you are.
I don't have an issue with that. I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying. All I'm saying is that money is like Jordan Addison. He's only going to USC because of the money. That's not. I'm not saying.
I thought that was a shitty move, but yeah.
But it's not because he's got to get paid, right? That's what I'm saying. He's got to get paid. It's out there. What are you supposed to do? Say no?
I know. And at the end of the day, the coaches take the big paydays too. So it's like.
That's the problem. That's when everything started to get crazy. You know, Earl Bruce made $87,000 a year when he was hired. When his last contract at Ohio State was making $87,000 a year. But now you can't tell these players no because coaches are making $10 million a year. That's the problem. That's probably where the money should be stopping.
But that's also boosters, right? That's also the same people that are starting up these collectives and throwing money to kids were throwing money at coaches. Yeah, you know what I mean.
But that's the sad part. And then my worry too. And now So now you're taking these boosters that are giving these players money. Now they're giving these players money. So let's say I'm giving $100 million to Ohio State every year. Now I'm only going to give them $50 million. I'm going to give these players the other 50 or whatever. So now the backup offensive lineman who was enjoying his free haircuts at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center, they have to limit some of that shit. You know what I mean? That's probably never going to happen. But it's the things that I just feel like it's just kind of a madhouse. But I don't have an issue with these guys getting paid. Right, I have an issue with guys like Quinn Ewers making dumb decisions because they want millions of dollars in their pockets.
I'm telling you, it's the long con, man. It's the long con.
I just
don't think dumb decision if you're making a couple $1 million.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But
if 100 schools offered me $1 million, I would transfer 99 times.
That's fair. But you get my drift. The dude's 18 years old. Like I don't know if they talk about these NFL guys making money, but these are grown-ass men with families. Like, it's just not – I just don't think it's the same thing. And then they opened this whole can of worms up with the transfer portal, which is a whole nother issue.
I think you should be – like, I didn't like the whole, like, having the red shirt for a year where, like, if you're any other student, like, you're not prohibited in any way, you know, if you want to go from one – and the coaches weren't either. Coaches were – leaving all the time, leaving before the bowl games. Like I hated that aspect.
Yeah, that's an issue. I don't like that either.
Yeah. So, but I don't like players like having a good season and then, let's jump ship and get a payday and enter free agency either. It's like there, I think has to be a common ground or, middle ground on that as well.
Yeah. I don't even necessarily mind that. Like who was it? I think is it Houston? Cincinnati. Right, one of those AAC schools got the kicker from Delaware. Yeah, it was Cincinnati. They got the kicker from Delaware. He dominated at the FBS level or FCS level. Now he's going to the FBS level. I really don't have an issue with that. Or Cam Ward from Incarnate Word. For some reason, I don't have an issue with that. But what I have an issue with is the quarterback from Cincinnati, who was at Cincinnati, transferred to Eastern Michigan for one season, dominated the MAC, and then said, you know what, let's go back to Cincinnati. So now he's back at Cincinnati this year, screwing the dude who's been sitting there waiting his turn. It feels like
how much money did he get to come back?
I know, right? That's what I'm saying. Like, that doesn't make it – because the whole year thing, it's kind of silly, but I guess it made you think twice. But when you could transfer – I mean, come on. Like, I have no problem with you transferring out, but clearly that dude was just transferring out.
Well, it's like, should you only get like a one time and then that's it, or what's –
I don't think that the 1 year rule would be so bad if it wasn't for the coaches. I don't think there's an issue with being like, oh, listen, dude, you better be sure. Because the problem is, remember, all these dudes – and I don't even – maybe the rule should be like, oh, you don't have to sit out a year if you're a junior or you're a senior or something. But the problem is, I think you get these kids that go in and they don't play immediately and they're like, fuck this. You know what I mean? Like Mookie Cooper, for example, leaving Missouri. Or, Quinn Ewers as an example. You just got there 6 months ago, dude. What do you fucking do? You know what I mean? Like, clearly something happened. You made a bad decision, or you're making a bad decision now. Let's sit and let's think about it. You know what I mean? Like, because the transfer portal, if you look at it, a lot of them are freshmen and sophomores. They were just like, fuck this. And they were there for like 6 months. It's like, dude, are you sure? I mean, they got guys that transferred like 5 fucking schools, dude. Look at Tim Martell.
Yeah, I know. I forgot. I saw one transfer portal. The kid was at like his 6th school. And that's
insane. That's insane.
But I think those kids are chasing playing time. You know what I mean? And
but at some point, it's just, is it that important? Because, I mean, what's he got a degree in, Jim? Like, I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what the fuck's he going to do. I don't know you're still in college. Clearly, if you transferred 6 times, you ain't going to make a living doing it. What is your plan now? And I think that's where we think it's fuzzy. Is it not everything's about football? It's just not,
But this is older people talking, you know what I mean? And like, sometimes I think it's overstated that a lot of these kids are coming from these bad homes, but I do think there's a lot of kids whose parents aren't realistic enough about the dream and think like, oh yeah, you keep transferring because you're going to find your spot and you're going to make it. And it's like, nah, your kid don't got it. Like, it's just.
And I would, you know what? I think it would be fine. Like, if you decided to transfer to, like, I don't know. Let's say I transfer to Delaware. Let's say I play at Ohio State. I'm sitting the bench. I transfer to Delaware. Okay. That seems like a person who has a realistic idea of where they are at in the world. You know what I mean? But you had like Tim Martell transfer from Ohio State to Miami. And it's like, well, why are you transferring them? You know what I mean? Those are pretty much the same. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not really getting that. You know what I mean? Or Jamison Williams transferring from Ohio State to Alabama. Now, it worked out for him, but there's a lot of that where it's just like, why did you do that? You know what I mean? It feels weird.
But then he went, Miami to UNLV?
Yeah.
Now, see, that's a drop down, though, right? You know what I mean?
That was such a drop. It's just like, you were a 5-star, now you're at UNLV, like,
and not even on the field there. And then
couldn't play, couldn't win the job there too. But you know what else is weird too? And now we're going on another tangent. That kid, Malik, what's his face from Last Chance U, that was at Florida.
Malik Henry.
Yeah, Malik Henry was at Florida State.
Whoa, hold on, dude. Malik Henry's the starting quarterback for the Jacksonville Sharks in the Indoor Football League. So
is that where he's at?
So you better shut your mouth if you're about to talk shit. That guy's made a fine career. Okay, I watch his games every week on YouTube.
He was at FSU, right? Then what? He went to the JUCO.
Yeah.
Then nobody came for him after
Nevada. He was at Nevada for like 2 weeks.
Okay, went to Nevada. He couldn't start there. And
I believe.
It's just like, dude, this kid was a 5-star kid. Like, maybe it's behavior, maybe it's whatever, but like sometimes you're just not there. Like, or you're there, but you're that guy we were just joking about, that it's like you're going to be a role player for the next 4 years. You're not the man anymore.
Yeah.
And like, these guys won't accept that sometimes.
I think I messed that up. I think he's with the Calgary Stampede. I think he plays wide receiver in the CFL now.
Oh, wow.
Respectful.
Hey, chasing the dream.
You can make a lot of fucking money in the CFL. The Indoor Football League, no. Those guys aren't making dick.
XFL is going to pay pretty well.
That's what it's looking
USFL
like.
was paying decent. They were getting like $4,500, I think, a week. But XFL, I guess the numbers haven't released yet, but they said they're going to pay more than the USFL and cover all housing costs and food, I believe, as well. So,
wow.
Not bad.
I didn't watch too much USFL, but when I did, I thought it was solid. I mean, it felt a little bit like college football, but without the crowd.
With all those leagues, it's always the O-line and play is the weakest part. And so then that makes the quarterback play look worse because they have no time to throw frequently. Usually, like, your skill guys are pretty good because that's a dime a dozen, at DB or receiver and running back. Most of those guys could plug in and hold their own on an NFL team. But it's like the O-line there's a stark difference between like an NFL guy and, an alternative league guy.
Well, I think the issue more or less with those guys is I don't necessarily – I'm not saying the wide receiver position is easier, but like it's more reliant on your own physical ability. There's a lot of teamwork that is involved with the offensive line, right? Mm-hmm. And that's why you see a lot of wide receivers. Like, really, when you see wide receivers shine in those leagues, like guys like Kevontae Turpin, it's because this guy's getting quick routes where it doesn't take a whole lot of communication with the quarterback. He's kind of dishing it out because the quarterback and the offensive line, those are so reliant on communication and teamwork. And you're talking about guys that are together for like, a month beforehand. I think that's why that's why you see that, because the quarterback. I mean, we saw Kyle a lot of, with the Browns and at Richmond. We know the guy can throw the ball. He's okay. You know what I mean? Like, he's not terrible, and he was trash. Shea Patterson, complete trash. They cut him. He was the number one pick. You know what I mean? But he also looked really good at the spring league. So I think a lot of that is communication based. But I don't know. I liked it. I thought it was bullshit. They had to sign up for 3 streaming sites. That was a big miss. That was dumb. Because I watched a lot of those games illegally, my friend. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm all for just having more leagues, just more guys get some money for a while and maybe have a chance to get into the NFL. Just need some more reps for more film.
Oh, yeah. There's definitely – I actually wrote an article, sent up to my editor. I think that there's 5 guys the Browns should definitely kick the tires on. The FCF, I thought that was a pretty solid league. I thought they definitely took a step up in talent compared to last year. Last year was pretty unwatchable. This year was like, oh, this guy's pretty good. They signed a bunch of guys that were pretty athletic dudes that only spent 1 year in college, 2 years in college because they didn't have the grades or they got kicked out or got in some trouble. They had one dude that was 20 years old on the roster. And I was like, oh, these guys some of these dudes can play. You know what I mean? Plus, you have Johnny Manziel and T.O. there.
Oh,
so
hey. That kid from Valpo, did he make a roster?
Oh, the kid that wasn't he like the Gridiron Showcase?
He got an invite to the Eagles.
The running back?
Yeah. I'm not seeing it. I wonder if he got cut.
Probably. It's from Valpo. So what, do you guys have a solution for the transfer portal? Do you like the transfer portal? Is it better it better now than it was?
Yeah. So it's really not like I think it's more
like chaos, dude.
So I think more kids are transferring, but it's really it's not much different. It's just like the coaches have a list of like who's actually available now versus before. It's like you kind of just had to like reach out to a coach or he saw on social media that
but you had to sit out a year.
So say it again.
But you had to sit out a year though. I think sitting out a
year.
Well,
but they repealed that a couple years ago, like 3 or 4, I want to say, something like that. So I like that they don't have to sit out just because I think you should get it one time and then, if you do it twice, then you sit out. Or maybe you sit out like 3 games or something, like some in between. But if a head coach can jump from one job to another, I don't see how you can justify, a player then not being able to transfer and being immediately eligible as well.
Well, that's the problem. I think that's where a lot of the stems is that, again, the coaches are just getting paid insane amount of money. And their job. I don't think I would even have an issue with coaches leaving after the season. But the problem is they're leaving late.
And you can't really even police that because it's like it's interstate commerce. Like that would get thrown out in a court if like you said a coach can't take another head coaching job. So like
no, I would I'm just saying like it would be nice if there was some kind of rule you could put in place where they can't leave before the bowl game. That's the big thing.
What always stuck with me was when Brian Kelly. Kind of first Brian Kelly at Cincinnati when they were was it the sugar? Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess at Notre Dame too. I was always just thought of like, Cincinnati, their best season ever up to that point, and hey, I'm gonna skip town. So
yeah, he bailed. I know. I think the transfer portal is good. People abuse it. There's a lot of kids. I always see the articles that like half the kids in it end up not being on a team and have to figure something out. But yeah, I mean, the days of having to sit out or the days of a coach not telling you could go to certain schools, or basically blocking certain schools you could go to, or like with our old coach.
I never liked that. I never liked blocking. I always thought that was fucked up.
With our old coach, who's now in the MLFB, I definitely know some kids that when they wanted to transfer and ask for tape, he was like not forthcoming with it. So it's like you could there were ways people could abuse the system before to kind of keep a player on campus.
Yeah.
And now I think they have more freedom. Now they're just kind of, some players are screwing it up, but other ones are figuring it out. I mean, look at Jamison Williams. Like, it's a great transfer portal move. So,
yeah.
Sorry, I know he left Ohio State, but like, I mean, never would play probably behind all those receivers that are there. Goes to Bama, becomes a first-round pick. So
yeah, no, there's other examples too of it, working out. I don't know. It just feels like it's too wide. For every Jamison Williams, there's 35 Tam Martells.
That's the thing, man. Like, again, kind of like with the money, like there's going to be winners and there's going to be losers. And like, it's always great to feel bad for the losers, but
I don't feel bad for them.
No one told you to enter the transfer portal when
exactly. Yeah, I don't. It is what it is. It's not like I'm going to stop liking college football, right? It's not like I'm going to hold on to these stringent. I feel this way, but like, so I don't feel bad for them. I just feel like it could have been prevented or limited. Does that make sense? But I get what you're. I mean, it is what it is because, like,
I'm with you. I mean, like, there's got to be a number where it's like, hey, you're in the transfer portal for the third or fourth time. Like, what are you doing? Like,
when I also think about the kids that were there too, like that kid at Cincinnati, that fucking blows. That dude left, and you're like, all right, cool, I'm another step up on the ladder. And then he comes back, what?
Well, that's my joke about Quinn Ewers, right? I'm like, what happens? Yeah, if he doesn't beat out Hudson Card, and then next year Arch beats him out, it's like he's gonna transfer again. Like
100%. If Hudson Card beats him out, he'll transfer it now.
The only thing I think. Well, yeah, I couldn't believe Bo Nix transferred out. But
why would he do that?
They say the coach down there has got some issues too. But
Brian Harsin?
Yeah.
I've heard that.
Players haven't been a big fan. I don't think the people in Alabama are taking too well to, like, what is he, like a Utah guy or something like that?
From Boise.
Yeah, Idaho guy. Yeah. I think there's a little bit of culture shock. But what was I saying before that? Bo Nix transfer portal. Yeah, so like the days of being like USC and loading up on talent and being like 3 or 4 deep at a position, I think those days are kind of over too. The last I remember Kevin Sumlin down at A&M behind Manziel. He had Kyler Murray, Brandon Allen,
Kenny Trill or
Kenny, Kenny Trill. And they like all left within like a couple of years. They were all out of there.
Kenny Trill, Jesus Christ.
Kenny Trill. Yeah, someone had like 3 or 4 5-stars. He had like 3 or 4 5-star QBs, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, A&M is about to be the new dynasty," and they were all gone. Like,
well, Kevin Sumlin also sucked.
Yeah,
he was so terrible. He couldn't coach.
That flamed out quickly.
Really, huh?
Well, it was like
they flamed out quickly. I mean, they had like 2 respectable seasons, and then it just crashed and burned.
Yeah, it was done. I think Sumlin got lucky because if I remember, he was attached to like Holgerson, right? And it's like,
yeah, he got Houston when he got to Houston. I believe it was the Case Keenum years too, right?
Yeah, but didn't he take over for Holgerson, or he was working with
Houston, right?
Okay, yeah, at Houston, I think so. Yeah. And then
Holgerson left Houston to go to West Virginia.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And now, and he's gone back. Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Either way,
Neil Brown's in West Virginia.
I think Sumlin is just a guy who benefited from that because you've seen like now he was at A&M and stunk. He went somewhere else, was bad.
Arizona. And
yeah. Like
same thing. Had like a season with who's the quarterback they had that was athletic?
Khalil Tate, bro.
Khalil Tate.
Son of a bitch. He was my first-round draft pick in college fantasy football. And he was like, oh my God, do you remember that offseason when they hired Kevin Sumlin where they interviewed Paul Johnson from Georgia Tech? And he was, I guess the AD allowed Khalil Tate to help pick the coach. And Khalil was like, no, I don't want to play in a triple option. Fuck you, Paul Johnson. And then they hired Kevin Sumlin. It was like, dude, why you can't throw the ball? Why wouldn't you pick Paul Johnson? You would have won the Heisman, dude. Like, that was the worst decision of your career. It was terrible, dude. He threw like 3 picks against Hawaii. The season opener was done. I don't think he played again that season.
Oh, here it is on Sumlin, dude. I was way off.
He's in the USFL.
Yeah. So he was at Purdue with Jim Chaney and Joe Tiller.
Oh, Joe Tiller.
He was an assistant coach when Drew Brees set all those records in 2001. And
that's one of the best football games of all time, by the way. Purdue against Georgia.
He got that. He got attached to that. He's like, oh yeah, I drew up the plays for Drew Brees on his like record-setting year. I don't think Kevin Sumlin's a bad coach, but I think it's like one of those situations where some coaches they go in and then they flame out fast. You just have coaches that can hit it, and then they can't do it no more.
You can't sustain it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like they're really good at shocking the system, but that's it. That's all they can do. And I feel like he's kind of like that because I think he's doing okay in the USFL too, right?
I do feel like, yeah, he's okay. I feel like offensive coaches make worse coaches than defensive coaches. Because I think like the really bad offensive coaches think only like, I just need to know my offense and I can beat any defense.
Yeah,
I just need to score more points than they.
Yeah. Yeah. And then they like, and I feel like Sumlin did a lot of that. Like I felt like, remember like even Manziel that year where he was like great, he had to get in like a shootout with Duke in that bowl game. It was just like,
yeah.
It's like you guys should be dog walking Duke, and like here it is, 38-35 in the fourth quarter. Manziel's trying to come back. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah. I don't know. What that is weird, but you say that, but yeah, I mean, it's still an offensive guy. It's not. I don't think it's just the passing teams like that either. Because Paul Johnson was like that at Georgia Tech. He came in with that triple option. The ACC was like, "Oh, I can't handle this." They went to the Orange Bowl or whatever it was, and then they won like 2 games the rest of his career. It was really strange. You know what I mean? It's you. I think you're probably right with. I think the offensive guys probably have more of an ego too. You know what I mean? Plus, you see defensive guys, too, they don't get hired as fast. Everybody wants the new hot offensive coordinator. So you could coach like one game and score 60 points, and they'd be like, oh, my God, that guy's ready for the big time. But the defense.
And every guy who's like innovative on that, like their system gets figured out at some point.
Yeah. But
dude,
those defensive guys, too, like Brent Venables, he was at Clemson for like 10 fucking years before he took a head coaching.
Yeah, because it's hard to get a job as a defense.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So all those guys are a little bit more established. There's another guy, I can't remember, the guy from Oklahoma. No, not Chris Ash. There was another guy who was a defensive corner for like 10 years, pretty high level, and then finally got his gig. But those offensive guys, a lot of times you're like, well, shit, the head coach from Hawaii is Timmy Chang. He never even been a coordinator.
Yeah.
And that shit happens all the time.
Well, yeah, people figure you out. I looked up this game, so I want to mention it. So A&M Duke Chick-fil-A Bowl final score 52-48. A&M won, but we're down 38-17 at half, and I'm just like, Duke was 10-4 that year. Like they probably lost to like some of the worst teams in the ACC, and it's like
was Jamison Crowder
there? Yeah, Jamison Crowder's on that team.
Dude, Jamison Crowder was legit.
Nice.
Who was the quarterback? It was Thad Lewis?
No, Boone. Whoever that is.
Was it Anthony Boone?
Could be.
The guy, the in-between guy who never took a snap in the NFL? You had Thad Lewis, Boone, and then, Daniel Jones, right?
Yeah, if you say so. I don't keep up with
I'm not a big Duke football guy.
I don't know. I default.
I'll take your word for it, though. But
I don't know.
But I think about Mark Trestman got figured out. The guy at Clemson, it'll be curious to see. I can't think of his name. The OC.
Dabo Sweeney?
No. The OC, Tony Elliott. So he just left. It'll be interesting to see if people have figured out his offense because they were saying that.
No. Where's Tony Elliott at?
Smaller school, I think.
Is it?
He's not the one that went to USF, is he?
No, he went to Virginia.
That's right.
Dude, someone else left Clemson a couple years back and went to.
Yeah, he's at USF. I know who you're talking about. And there's a guy that left Clemson. He's at Louisville, too. He's at Scott Satterfield.
He's nice.
Well, Scott Satterfield's at App State.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he was dominating App State. That's when App State started to shit the bed against Coastal.
Was he the OC at Louisville, then went to App, and then back to Louisville?
I thought he was the OC at App State, and then when that guy left, I thought he just kept the machine going. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, he might be right.
I
know he was at App, but
no, he said something at Louisville where he was supposedly taking calls on another job or something, and then people got really pissed.
Yeah, it was App, then Toledo, FIU, back to App, and then Louisville.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Jeff Scott is the guy I was thinking of that I think you were talking about.
Yeah, he was the old receivers coach, I think. And then
yeah, that was a bad hire. What's USF?
He's still there.
Yeah, but he's been there for like 2 years, right? And they suck.
Oh, see. Yeah, he's 3-18 as a head coach there.
Yeah,
that's
they don't
USF.
Yeah, he because he brought in a big transfer quarterback his first year, the kid from Alabama, Brian Bennett or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Who was also on his fourth school.
Yeah, he didn't do anything.
Bennett.
Blake Bennett. There you go.
But yeah, I just think that people figure out the offensive guys. So I'm always just like, eh. But dude, it'll be curious to see what happens with Tony Elliott, with some of these other guys. Ryan Day is a guy that really surprised me, to be honest, since this was about Ohio State. I thought for sure he was just inheriting a good system.
And he did.
But he's done some things there that I think have kind of proven that, he's a competent coach.
He is, and I think Kevin Wilson's one of the most underrated OCs in the country too.
Agreed.
I loved him when he was at Indiana. I just
he coached.
They didn't have a defense, but they would score 40, 50 points in a lot of games as well.
Well, the only reason he got fired though is because he had some off-field issues, right?
Yeah, I had heard some grumblings.
I think that's the only reason he's still at Ohio State.
Yeah,
because his offenses are smooth, bro.
Mm-hmm.
I've
heard some of those rumors, but
yeah. I mean, that's all. I think that's all they. I don't think he ever got charged or anything. I think he had a bad year. That rumor came out, and I think that they were like, "No, we got to get rid of you."
Well, so I had heard some stuff when I was a senior in high school because I had some teammates that were on IU. Yeah, and then kind of went away, and then it kind of resurfaced again. I mean, that would have been 4 or 5 years later, I guess, when he got let go, and some of that stuff started coming out again. Again, I don't know all the validity, but heard he was kind of a dick, but hell of a coach for sure.
I'm sure he's a dick. Yeah, Ryan Day is a good coach. I think we're gonna see what happens. He hired with Jim Knowles. I think he's a very hands-off kind of guy, which I think is gonna help. I had my questions about the Jim Knowles hire. If you look at his resume, other than that last year at Oklahoma State, I didn't really see it, but others do. It's a very creative defense. It's so we'll see what happens with them, but that's where I'm at. Well, we've been going on for almost an hour and a half. You guys got anything to add?
No, I hope you guys have a good season. Appreciate you having me on. Like watching the receivers there at least. So,
dude, I'd
rather Big Ten country win than SEC. So I'm not an Ohio State guy, but I'll root for them over Georgia or Bama any day.
I think most people feel that way. Anybody that's not from the South feels that way.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Big Marvin Harrison Jr. fan. Hopefully,
I like him a lot too, man.
He's badass. So he is a badass. Yeah, dude, I want to have you guys on the show more often, man. It was just when we were chatting for an hour and a half only. But the bad thing was only half of it was about Ohio State football. The rest of it,
I know. Sorry, guys.
The rest of it was us Googling, searching who the Duke quarterbacks were. But I appreciate you guys coming on. Austin, you want to tell them where they can follow you?
Yeah, it's A Pfenny on Twitter, Pfenny. Again, appreciate you having me on. Want to do this more often.
Yeah, absolutely. Nate, what you got going on? What's your Twitter?
At Nate_Atkins3. Austin and I have a pod. I think we talked about it, so we got to get you on there, and then we got to start firing them back up. Maybe once actual training camp starts up, we'll start doing them again.
What was the question you want me to ask Austin last time? Oh, if you were a stripper, what 3 songs would you dance to?
Yeah, there you go.
We'll say that. What 3 songs would I strip to?
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Shit, it's tough being put on the spot. I mean, I guess I'm in love with a stripper. It's got to be like the first one.
Oh my god, too cliche, bro. Too cliche.
I mean, shit. What do you expect? Rock You Like a Hurricane would be a good one.
Oh, that is a good one.
I'm a Miami Hurricane, guys.
That
might be my intro song when I get the smoke going and walking to the stage.
You could really gyre.
Trying to think, man. I don't know. I'm gonna have to think on a third one.
You could. There's so many Shaggy songs. Mr. Boombastic would be good. You could do some solid Hoobastank songs. You know what I mean? You could go like the Wheels on the Bus. Just go like
I like I like the Wheels on the Bus, man.
I went the patriotic route. I had some Lee Greenwood. You know what I mean? I'm proud to be an American. You know what I mean? Just right? Yeah, you could do it. There's Kid Rock. You could gyrate to some Kid Rock, dude. His new album's killer.
Ooh, I would say maybe some Private Eyes, Hall & Oates.
Oh,
I love some Hall & Oates.
That's a killer, man.
Sounds like you're gonna be stripping for my mom, dude.
That's kind of music well, man.
Money's money, man.
Money is what. I love it. That's so good. Hey, there's no wrong answer. Nate, I can't remember what your answers were. I don't remember what my answers were, to be honest.
I don't either. I made them up on the spot, but it's a hard question, man.
So Smash Mouth would be good.
It is. It's like if you have a while to think about it, it's a lot easier thing. But
I'm sorry. I'll learn to properly prep you next time.
Yeah,
I
got to get ready for my next career, man.
God, so picky. I gotta come up with another question like that. Which reminds me, have you guys watched the Staircase show? Have you guys watched the documentary?
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, maybe.
We'll save it for next time. We're at an hour and a half. This was the Ohio State of Mind. We'll talk about the Staircase next week. Thank you.
All right. Later, guys.